Hi, and welcome to this tutorial on healing. And here we have a portrait image taken in an urban environment, and we have a fantastic looking model. I mean, she's really beautiful. But there's one small problem, which is that on the day of this shoot, her forehead had kind of broken out a little bit. And if I zoom in to 100%, you'll be able to see exactly what the problem is. While the skin on her face, the sort of general complexion, actually isn't too bad. It needs a bit of work, but it's not too bad. But what's happened is she's had this sort of eruption of these little sort of pimples on her forehead. And so we probably want to get rid of these. And what we're going to do is we're just going to look at some different techniques for addressing this. If I show you, I have a snapshot from some work I did before. And that gives you some idea of what we're aiming for, although I wouldn't regard that as completely finished. But there we've kind of fixed most of the problems at that point, but really here there's no sort of easy, quick get around with healing. You just have to get on and do it. So I'm going to show, firstly, I'm going to make a copy layer, and I'm going to call this one patch, because here I'm going to look at what I will sometimes do is, particularly if I have a large area which is problematic, I will often select the patch tool. So say if I just get this where I want it, what I can sometimes do is I have a large area of sort of reddish skin here, and what I'm going to try and do is patch that, and I just drag it away onto an area of good skin, and I can see a preview of what's going to happen if I select this or another area. So I'm trying to select a clear area of skin, but I need to select a fairly adjacent area that's going to blend in. And so that's the effect of my patch operation. Now, patching can sometimes cause other problems, because it can mean that we get rid of the big problem, as it were, but it hasn't quite perfectly matched with adjacent skin areas. So we may have to do a bit more work on that. But patching, I suppose that you might think of as a sort of sledgehammer of skin healing. It's moving, taking a big problem area and replacing it with adjacent pixels. And on that one, I think you can see there's a slight kind of ghosting around it. So what we might think of doing is, what I do is, I use patching as my sort of first line of attack, and then I will normally expect to come in and work at a finer level. But really, just to illustrate here, so what I'm doing is kind of identifying any kind of large problem areas, and I'm just trying to patch them away. And if I drop that layer completely, you can see what we've done there. Okay, so if we make another copy layer of the background, so if we take our patchwork and we make another layer and we call this spot, because here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the actual spot healing brush tool, which I think is, to many people, is to some extent the sort of most obvious healing tool, the one that people are usually aware of. And here it's usually best to get your brush size down, and then just move in and use that to spot out those problem areas as you encounter them. And I think it's probably reasonable to say that while spot healing is a pretty sophisticated tool which does a very good job, it does you will sometimes find that you're suffering from the same trouble that you can have with patch, which is that the spot healing works but kind of leaves artifacts or something like that, so that the end result isn't quite as happy as you would like it to be. Worth saying that with an image like this, where the model's skin is quite problematic, I would almost inevitably be looking at doing some skin smoothing after the healing phase. So I know that I'm going to put some smoothing on this, which is going to improve it still further. It's going to improve the look of her skin still further. But anyway, so there we are. That's just some spot work. And as you can, if I switch that off, you can see once again the effect of what we've done in what can be quite a time-consuming process. So one issue with healing, I think, for most people who are editing images is often, well, how much time have you got to spend on this? Are you going to do the best job you can? Are you going to allow yourself? Do you really want to have to spend half an hour just healing? Obviously, it depends on the situation you're in. Okay, so now I'm going to just show you another technique. So if I make a copy of that, and I'll call this one clone. And this technique is similar, but this is more that if you were getting involved in something like sort of high-end beauty retouching for something for like a cosmetic company or lipstick company or something like this, those guys will use cloning because they really need to go into this in utmost depth and detail. And so with cloning, what I've got here is two retouch clone brushes defined. One of them is set up to darken, and one of them is set up to lighten, as you can see in the mode up there. Opacity 100, flow 70, sample current layer, and airbrush selected. And here, as with any cloning operation, all we're doing is setting our brush size. We're identifying the area which we can think of as the source area. These are the pixels we're going to use. And if we press Alt, the cursor changes. So we've sampled those pixels there, and we're using them to darken that, when in fact I think we really want to lighten that, don't we? And it's really just a question of choosing either mode, depending on if you the piece of skin you're aiming at you think is a problem because it's a little bit darker than the surrounding skin, then obviously we're going to select lighten. If you feel that it's problematic because it's lighter, then we're going to want to darken it. And so with this cloning operation, we're just moving around, and once you get into this, you find you can do it sort of reasonably quickly. We're just trying to identify an area which we feel is good skin, and we're just trying to clone it across onto areas. This part here is a little darker and redder, isn't it? So we can try and equalize that with our cloning operation. But as you can see, this working at this level of detail is very time consuming, which is why a full-on sort of beauty retouch, they would probably be quite happy thinking in terms of several hours to go through this, which, if that's your task, obviously that's fair enough. Most of us are probably not going to need to retouch at that level of detail, but of course it's entirely up to you and depends on your situation and the task you've got in hand. So there we are, and if we pull back and if we take off the clone operation, perhaps you can see that the cloning operations are slightly more subtle in a way. And I suppose with the cloning, what we're thinking about is more really trying to equalize different areas of skin so that it looks smoother and the appearance of blemishes is reduced. So that's it really. If we go back to here's where we started. This is the snapshot of the work I did previously, and if we snapshot now, this is a kind of in between snapshot. You'll be able to see the progress that we've made so far. But we still have got quite a lot to get to this point. We still have got quite a lot of work to do. And as I said, even this, I wouldn't really regard this as finished. There's quite a bit more work to do on that. So there we are. Just a quick introduction to three of the best known methods that we use for healing the skin, removing blemishes, pimples, spots, whatever it is. And I hope that's useful, and I look forward to catching you on the next video.